What is up, wrestling car collectors? Welcome to the first episode of the new year, 2023. We're doing our monthly recap. And once again, I'm with the legendary
Legendary.
Price Guide. Anand, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Happy New Year, brother. Happy New Year all to everyone out there. All the best for safe and
Yeah,
prosperous 2023. Away we go.
yeah, here we go. Let's see
It's
if
gonna
we
be
let's
a
see
lot
if
of shit gonna be
2023
coming
can
coming our way this year. There's gonna be a lot of Panini cards, gonna be a lot of indie cards.
let's see if 2023 can top 2022 in terms of all things wrestling cards. Let's see what happens.
Oh, well, sure, yeah. Yeah,
It's
20,
gonna be
well,
crazy.
if you watched our recap last month with Chuckster, we talked about everything that went on. It was a heck of a year,
It
or a
really
hell of a
was.
year. So let's see what 2023 brings. But right off the bat, we got Chronicles that landed yesterday. We'll talk about that shortly. And then they announced Immaculate that's coming in February. As soon as Immaculate hits, we're around WrestleMania time. There's going to be a 2023 Prism. So dig deep, guys. If you're a shiny collector, if you're a Prism collector, if you're a new guy, if you're a set collector or semi-set collector, yeah, it's going to cost you this year.
Do you think it's just going to be a trend where we're going to go up and up and up every time, or have we like
Oh,
this is our peak level, and this
well,
is what we
there'll
expect
be
going
the great
forward?
fanatics reckoning at some point where things sort of get decided as to what brands are going forward with respect to Topps Chrome and Panini Prism, and at that point is Panini still an independent company, or are they going to be part of the Fanatics umbrella? So and that's several years away, not next year. But to answer your question, is it going to get like this forever on a graph going higher and higher? Hard to say. Possibly, like if 2022 isn't any indication, it was night and day. We're going to see more of it coming this year for sure. We already know, like Chronicles, 500 card base set guys numbered. We talked about that before. We weren't sure if it was going to be numbered that way. It is. The last tier of it are numbered to 8 super short prints. So the days of putting these things together, like Select was enough of a bear, and even Impeccable is proving really difficult just on the base stuff.
I
And it's
think
going to
I
be
think
excellent.
I think a base set collector on a consistent basis is going to be obviously much more difficult, as you and Chuckster will know more than
Sure,
anybody,
yeah,
really. But I think you're gonna be able to still pick your spots at certain times for
right.
certain things, but getting everything of every release going forward, right, at least in the foreseeable
Yeah,
future, it's going to be
that's
difficult.
that's a good point. Everything of everything is going to be hard,
Yeah.
Like I never bought Transcendent along the way because Transcendent wasn't really a collecting thing. You pay the grand, you get the 50 cards, and in my opinion, they were never A-list guys on those transcendent base cards. I wasn't buying the high-end stuff after the fact, so I was looking for the base. But anyways, we'll talk about that. So I want to talk about the AEW Spectrum, the conversation we had last week about that base set as well. But let's review quickly. I mean, when we talked last time, we were looking at the year, but we did get through December. December is always a little quieter, guys, because it's that time of year. The new sets that we had come out was the 2022 Phoenix Pro, which you and I determined isn't from Phoenix, Arizona, but from
Yeah.
the Phoenix Theater in California.
California, yeah.
Yeah, we had the 2022 PPW Series and Series 3, actually.
Mhm.
Kevin did a pre-sale on his playing cards. You had that interview with him the other day,
Yep.
which was lots of fun. So if you guys don't know about that, the Kevin Gust art cards, new sets coming
I
out.
love all his stuff that he puts out, man. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, it's really, really well designed, great stuff. We're blessed in this hobby to have guys like Jay Bro and Adrian and 75 Kings and Kevin that are wrestling fans and just fucking phenomenal artists.
yeah, I mean,
Like
they're putting out some
designerly types.
amazing stuff.
I've hung out with musicians all my life and some really good ones. And I'm what they call a hack. I play, but I'm not great. And you watch some of these guys with talent, and it blows your mind. How do they do that?
Yeah.
Um, and I see, like, I'm working with Adrian again, and it just blows my mind, like, how he thinks of this shit. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Kevin's latest release too, to close out the year. And then you had, don't let's not discredit, Joypad led out there, put some incredible stuff for helping him
Yeah,
create the
and he
box.
did.
And
Yeah, Gary
uh,
did the boxes too, which is really cool.
it's
And I
just
like his boxes. They have a kind of toyish feel to them, which I quite like.
yeah, they're very cool. So it's just good stuff coming forward, I think, from those guys as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, and of course we mentioned off the top, Chronicles has just hit, and I'm watching them daily and watching what the upper end stuff is going for. The boxes are around 175 now. I mentioned those galas, so they're the last 10 of the base set. There have been 2 that have come up so far. One traded for 450. There's another one sitting at 750, hasn't sold yet, but that's what we're talking about. And these are lesser names. Once you get to the Braun Breaker and the Solo Sokoa, those are probably going to go for, Ryan was thinking maybe over $1,000, so you could be 3-4 grand into that last 10 set of
Yeah.
cards, let alone trying to get the rest of them. And there are within the tiers a few that are numbered to 99, like or even 75, I believe, like the Impeccables. And let me just say at the outset, having done the select all 400 and closing in on the Impeccable now, Impeccable is way different, way harder, way more expensive. Like I was buying the Rock mezzanine card for $1. I'm not buying the Rock Impeccable for that. You're going to spend $25 for that. So that's Ryan made the point that when Panini puts this stuff out, it's not really intended for everyone to collect them all. That's a shame to me. Like when someone puts out a set, the old school kid in me says, well, the whole idea is to try and get them all. That's what it is. It's the chase. But
we don't live in that world anymore, though.
no, we don't live in that world anymore. We don't.
Everything evolves. I mean, even
not a hobby for kids.
even
you remember at the National, these kids with $100 bills.
Yeah, but even
I didn't see $100 bill until I was 15.
Even the I forget where I was going with that, man. I'm so sorry. But even the product itself, wrestling as a whole itself, is not what it was. So it evolves, and that's what the hobby evolves with that as well too. So that's where I was going with that. It's just is it unfortunate for some people who are used to collecting a certain way? Yeah, probably it is. But
it's very pricey for everybody across the board, right?
It is. It really is.
Master set collectors like me. It's like anybody. Like if you're buying, say, on the Impeccable, you're buying the debut set or the championship set, or even the Indelible Ink, some of the lesser stuff. You're paying for it. Like for example, I quite like those stainless inserts, so I'm going for them. I'm about halfway done. Now this is a really interesting thing. The signed stainless ones are way less expensive than the non-signed. And the non-signed ones also have that sticker, that peel-off sticker, which I think gives it a bit of a quality to it. But really, the reality is the names. You got Roman, Cena, Ronda Rousey, The Rock, Undertaker. You got all the big names in the unsigned, which explains why. So, you would think that something autographed in these sets is worth more than something not, but that's not the case.
No.
In the last couple of releases, there's been base cards worth significantly more than signed cards. But that was never the case in wrestling. I don't know other sports, but in my life,
part of that could be due to the fact that they keep pumping out autographs all the time. So, it starts to devalue over time. Like, okay, this is like the 5th time now this person, the 7th time, the 10th time, the 20th time. I mean, how many different autographs can you have of the same person? I get it. If you're a player collector, that makes a lot of sense for you to collect like that. That's what the fun part of it is. But
as a Dexter guy, like how many more, do you need? But
because I tend to gravitate towards the parallels more than any autograph cards. Autographs are secondary to me now.
And if you recall, last year we did that sort of quickie poll just to get a rough sense as to what we thought where the hobby was broken down. And, it's not 100% scientific, but we found that it was roughly 75% PC. And then the rest of the 25 was set collectors, vintage guys, and new gold and shiny. But that's a big chunk. Like if 3/4 of the guys out there are doing like you or doing like Zan or just going after one guy in particular or going after just Brutus or just Macho Man or whatever.
Or a series of guys. I don't have to go through the whole set, but these are my 3-4 guys I are talents I want to collect.
And then that's where it gets tricky because you recall we spoke about that one Lita, for example, that went for $1,000 that we thought might have went for more. And that's only because somebody invariably was trying to do that set of cards. And there's probably going to be a couple of Lita PC collectors out there. Right? And then these things are limited. And that's what you're going to find again in the Chronicles. I mean, some of the stuff is going to be a dime a dozen. Some of these early base cards, you're going to see them everywhere. You're going to be, tripping all over them. And then other ones like the one and, some national treasures. But they're not like, for example, a Hogan yesterday went for $175, right? For National Treasures. Was it National Treasures? No, maybe it wasn't National Treasures, but it wasn't a huge amount of money anyways for a Hogan. So I'm curious to see what we always chase down the upper end. We look at what are getting to 5 figures, what are the big numbers. Curious to see on the Chronicles, is there anything in there that really gets big money? But it might be those galas. It might be that last 10 set of base that are the most
very well be.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Another thing I want to talk about before we look at our sales, and we're going to be shorter this month, guys, because December is always a little quieter, and we did cover a lot of stuff in our yearly recap. Conversation Tony and I had last week was about the middle set, the AEW Spectrum.
Yep.
We talked about how we weren't let down by it, but it didn't seem to catch fire like the first one. And then all of a sudden 2022 came out, and I made the comment it was much easier to get the master set on that, and I was able to do it very quickly. And then I went back and I realized that, I've never seen an AEW Spectrum base set for sale. anywhere. I don't have it.
Nope.
And so I started looking, going through our records and looking and seeing that, yeah, that's because some cards are still $30, $40 cards. The Thunder Rosa base, the Brick Basic base, the MJF base, you know, you're not getting those for $1 or less. So I'm wondering if this 2022 Spectrum kind of becomes like that 2016 Topps, where it was only available online, it was only available for a limited time. We guys that put these things together didn't put them together. And I wonder if that's going to get lost to history, that AEW Spectrum set is now going to become something to have because so few people have them.
I think you might be onto something there. I think you're probably
Well,
right.
possibly.
It's unfortunate that set, I believe, got overlooked and just kind of put to the side. One, because I think Upper Deck kind of, you know, I wouldn't say dropped the ball, but the kind of that time frame between that release and the inaugural release, you know, that hype went away about that, where it was at before. And then it's Panini that kept putting so much stuff out. We've been talking about Panini this and independent that, Panini this, independent that, and oh yeah, there's some Upper Deck stuff coming. But you know, we just kind of put it aside. It came out. It just didn't have the same kind of vibe as the previous release. And I think people was like, oh, and then right away, boom, like, and here came 2022 inaugural, you know, and it's just, I don't know, it just got kind of lost. And I think you're right. I think people like just let it go. And now they're like, whoa, wait a second.
Wait a second, I didn't get my Spectrum set.
I didn't get my Spectrum set. Now, how do I get that?
So I started looking at it and I realized, well, this is another Impeccable situation where I'm going to have to go for it, you know, like 2 cards at a time. And up here, it's impossible. So basically, Chuck put the Impeccable set together. You know, everything got shipped down to Chuck's place because I just can't buy a card for $4 and spend 15 to have it shipped. It just doesn't make sense, you know. So that's the only way I think that the Spectrum stuff is going to be put together. And it's interesting because the NXT Panini, no problem, easy to get. The European set that we were chatting about that I have on the way, no problem, easy to get.
I got some boxes of that on the way too. I think it's a very inexpensive product that features a lot of current talent that I could sell by the pack here for the kids in the store.
Good. And the 2022 AEW, again, no problem. I was able to put together, I didn't get the canvas ones and I didn't get the breakout ones, but all the other insert sets, there's 4 other ones plus the base, and it wasn't expensive at all, you know, and which is odd compared to the fact that Spectrum, now I know the metal cards are coming out and they're probably going to have a lot more success, or a lot more people are going to be into those. But I didn't really view the Spectrum as a high-end set. I didn't look at it as a Prism or a Transcendent or nothing along those lines, but perhaps just given the nature of how it was collated, or you know, it was hobby only, that could explain why. But again, I liken it to the Topps in 2016 that came out with those 6 cards and had all those rookies. No one put sets together. And I just got mine a couple years ago when I realized, you know, this is a set that exists and it's a popular one. But for something for you AEW guys out there, try and put together a Spectrum set or get as many as you can, because you're probably going to value that one.
I got 1 box.
Yeah,
that's all I have.
That's it.
I haven't even opened it yet.
So that's all I got on that. Do you want to hit our top sales?
Yeah, let's do our top sales of the month, sir.
So guys, it's Christmas time, you know, December. So always the numbers go down a little bit. And that was very evident this month. You know, we didn't have any 4-figure sales. There was no Hogan Poppies or Cosmos or anything like that going on. And our top 2 sales were actually by The Undertaker, which is nice to see, because we're always talking about Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair or Andre the Giant or The Rock or Roman. But there is a secondary tier of people like Becky Lynch, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, like The Undertaker, like Brock Lesnar, that every once in a while is going to have a biggie. And Taker had the top 2. We had a 22 Taker Impeccable Gold bar, and those are the cream of the crop from the Impeccables. Those are the ones that have the troy ounce of gold in them, and that was a 1 of 1, and that went for $36.60. I'm wondering, Tony, what do you think the gold itself is worth in one of those cards? I was wondering, should we check the exchange, see what the carat value is, and like, what's the actual gold in the card worth on a $3,600 card?
I'm sure it's not worth anywhere near to that, though.
No, it's not worth $36.60. I'm sure.
You got to grab them all and melt them down to get like maybe even like a 1/16 of an ounce.
Our number 2 top sale last month, which was a nice one. You know, nice to see. 1981 Undertaker Classic Base PSA 10, and that's the standard blue Undertaker that we call the rookie, whether it is or not. And $36.50, so pretty much the same price, right, as the top one. So 2 big numbers for Taker, 1 and 2 on the month of December.
Very one of the very first and one of his most recent. Yeah.
You know, and it could have just been one big Undertaker collector, you know, had a good Christmas bonus.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Number 3 was a 2022 Asuka Impeccable Gold Bar, so another one of those. And again, when we go back and we look at those gold bars, they're going to be the top card sales in the Impeccable release. Number 4, this is an interesting one for you. We'll talk about it. 2003 Triple H Raw Deal Backstage Signature, PSA 7. Now, not often that a Raw Deal card gets thrown into the top 10.
Nope.
Very rare that we even talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and if anyone knows Raw Deal, it's Tony Vella.
That's
so
right.
is this something? Let's
Well,
talk about Raw Deals and signatures. Is this like, is it a rare one to have a Triple H? Must be.
Only the rarest. Between all the people who've signed for the Raw Deal backstage autograph cards, they did 2 different versions. One's called Backstage Signature. One's called I can't remember what the other one's called. I'm drawing a blank there. There are 2 different kinds of signatures they did. A signing appearance. One called Backstage Signature. One called signing appearance. Triple H and Randy Orton are the very limited ones. Only 10 of each.
Okay, so explain.
So trying to find one, let alone someone went out and got it graded. Wow, that might be the only one you're going to find graded in for quite some time.
To come out as a 7. But that's still that's a big number.
It's a big number. Yep. Which I think on my old Velo Cards website, I might even have that listed for like $1,000, maybe. Just
really?
Just raw.
Like if I thought, what's the ones from is it Off the Rope or Off the Mat Graphs that he signed?
Yes, from All Access. Yeah,
All Access. That's right.
Yeah.
If you took that one and we sent it off to PSA and it came back at 7, I don't think we get $3,500.
No, you won't. You won't.
Right?
There's more of those. How many they are? I mean, Flair did announce how many they sent those out. But I'm telling you, there's more than of those, and there will be these Raw Deal cards.
Right.
100%. I mean, you have to understand too. People want to know like, oh, well, that WCW, that's Eddie Guerrero's only authenticated autograph card. That's not true. He also signed for the Raw Deal as well. He signed.
Have you ever seen that card come up?
Yes, many. I've actually had several of them over the years. There's probably about, I think there's less than, it might be 90 of those that he printed. I can't remember. What was nice about Comic Images on those things, on their old website, they used to list how many of each were signed.
Gotcha.
So on average, I think the higher end signed ones were like 200 or 210, which is still low compared to.
Is that sort of an untapped market? The way sort of everyone got
100%
last year and said, "Oh, Slam Attacks UK, this is something we should be taking seriously."
I believe so.
Found the chase stuff, found the gold stuff, found the auto stuff. Is there gold in them? There raw deal hills.
I think there is some gold there, but I think only with these particular autograph cards. I don't think there's anything within the actual pack pulled stuff you can get, because these autograph cards were not pack pulled. These were given away. These were given away by the company, Comic Images, sent off to tournament managers that were given away as prizes for people who entered in tournaments.
I see.
So you were people who played in tournaments and won specific events or tournaments like that were rewarded with certain prize cards that were given out by Comic Images. So whether it be title belt cards that had some kind of an ability. These cards themselves, although they're signed, they also have an ability on them that you can use in gameplay.
In the gameplay.
I
had a feeling you might have a little insight into that one.
So those are, I think it's a very, very untapped market. There's a good laundry list of people who've signed over the years. JBL, Eddie Guerrero, Randy Orton's going to be the most, and Triple H are the rarest. Now, Stevie Richards signed a couple. I think he signed 2 or 4 of those. Comic Images gave him like some blank ones to sign, and he signed those and used those for charity. And I think he raised money, but they're not really, my understanding is they're not really, authentic by Comic Images per se, because they were never given away as actual tournament prizes. But who knows? But as far as what was available, they are authenticated. I mean, they're legit 100%. But the ones that were actually issued by Comic Images to give to tournament managers to give away as tournament prizes, the least ones, rarest ones are going to be Triple H and Randy Orton.
Gotcha. All right, we'll carry on. So we got another. We got a number 5 is a 2022 Becky Lynch White Sparkle Prism 1 of 1. That traded for just under $3,000 at $29.95. And I've mentioned before, I'm not a parallel guy, or I'm past my autograph and relic collecting days. But if I was, those white sparkles are fucking beautiful. They're, of all the cards that came out last year, those would have been my favorite. And I might pick up a couple just to have on the wall, a few of those white sparkles, because they're just so nice.
I am on the hunt for one right now. My eyes are on a Dexter Loomis one right now.
All right, nice. Well, good luck with that. Hope you get it. And then we got a 2022 Brock Lesnar Impeccable Championship debut. Now, this one was only number 2. So again, if you're after those championship debuts, or if you're Brock Lesnar collector, you're going to probably scoop this one up, $2,900. So again, guys, we're talking $3,000, which is a lot of money for a wrestling card that isn't Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant. 2022 Stone Cold Impeccable Gold Bar, 1 of 1, $2,700. So Stone Cold selling less than Asuka. That's interesting.
I was just going to mention that. It is interesting.
Yeah. But again, it might have to do with, again, people, like, for example, we're talking about those galas being very expensive. I was thinking, well, if I don't get those galas, I'm never going to get the base set. So maybe, I'll approach this defensively, and I'll go out and I'll pay big money for those galas, right? Until I saw $400 a piece, and then $400, and I know the rest of them are going to be like 1,000 times 5.
On the low end.
No. Who am I defending from, for fuck's sake? You know what I mean? I'll be happy to put together 300 or 400 of the lower ones, but that's what factors into these things when you see, like, how come a Stone Cold is so cheap, and the Asuka got more.
Well, just get the other 490 cards, and then you can just Photoshop the other 10. It's been done.
Are you allowed to do that? Does that count? I keep telling you, fungible, baby. I like fungible.
I know.
2022 Stone Cold Impeccable Gold Bar. So that was that was 27. Then we got the Hulk Hogan Impeccable Championship debut. These were numbered to 5, so you had a better chance of getting a few more of these. 2651. But again, guys, notice that we're like down in the $2,000 range, and we're not in the $6,000-$7,000 range. 2014 The Rock Chrome Gold Refractor numbered to 50. 2601, and we know that there's a push on a lot of that shiny stuff of Roman and The Rock and that Chrome set. Adam did a video the other day on the evolution of Chrome and talked about how that all came to be and why those things after the fact have become so popular nowadays. And then our last one, number 10, is one that we normally see towards the top, strangely enough, in 1982 Hulk Hogan Wrestling All-Stars autograph BGS.
So for 1982.
For 1982, for a 1982 card. And again, we've seen that card for a lot more, and we didn't see any other All-Stars or Vintage or Andre or anything like that. Yeah. So,
it's interesting. I mean, it kind of wouldn't be a top 10 list without having some an All-Star card in there somewhere.
Well, there would be. We just have to go down to, as you see, sub $2,000. I mean, obviously, guys, there's loads of cards that sell in between $1,000 and $2,000. Yeah. We just like picking off the top ones, so we can look at it at the end of the year and say, okay, here are the top of the year, and sort of see what areas of the hobby are doing better and what names. And we've made it clear that Hulk Hogan won last year, hands down,
yes,
with the year he had, and that's likely to be the case. And we saw, unfortunately, the Rock Butterfly come down in value, so that made us question, well, is the Rock going to be the be-all and end-all going forward? And to that, I say a very qualified maybe. We have to see what the future brings. There will come a time where some of these modern cards are going to be getting big bucks along the scale of what these Hogan All-Stars are getting today. But none of us have crystal balls, or else we'd be buying lottery tickets.
That's right.
Just somewhere. So that's the story there. So that's it. Goodbye to 2022, the last one of the year. Great year in wrestling card sales. Obviously, we've never had a year like this in wrestling cards where so many of them have sold for so much. Clearly, Prism and Panini and that crazy week in April had a lot to do with, but But with these advent of gold bar cards and these one-of-ones, you're going to get some big numbers, and those cards are going to be on the market.
Let's talk maybe in the future here, like maybe for our next monthly recap, we'll talk about let's do a recap of the top 10 and have a top 10 of the top 10.
Yeah, we have the data, so it's just a matter of and predicting. All right, shall we go to our index? And I was going to suggest to you that maybe you might want to mix it up a little bit, because we've been following a lot of the same cards, and I don't know if anyone out there is actually paying attention to this, appreciates these numbers that we do, but the whole idea is just to sort of see where as a whole certain things are going and are things holding. Like, for example, the 2021 AEW Hobby Box. And the only reason why I keep looking at that is because it was the first AEW product by Upper Deck that came out, and it came out with a bang. It did fall below $100 as we predicted last month, or that it might. It averaged out at $94.89, so about $95 a box. That's from a previous high of double that, more than double that. And then we started looking at the 2021 AEW base set, and that's been kind of coming down as well. And you said it would be under $20 before you know it, and sure enough, it averaged out only on 5 sales, mind you, but it averaged out at $17.28.
Oh, but the high being $20.
Yeah, that's right. No one spent more than that. So, and I would bet if we switched over to the 2022 AEW base set, those numbers will be similar. They're not going to be way higher.
No.
I don't know if it's because there's so much product on the market, but I was able to put that master set together really fast and fairly inexpensively.
Yeah,
Like
I think this
literally, I offered the guy 30% of what he wanted, and he took it.
I think these as we call them, these are their flagship products. I think these are going to become, they print the shit out of them. So it's not going to be hard to come by. People like me are going to be selling these base sets in my store. Like I'm going to have to adjust my prices already. Just because they're just common to come by. It's like that. I mean,
but remember though, you've always got to ship these things, like when you buy a base set, it's not $2 to have sent to you, it's 10, right? And if it's me, it's 20, 25, right? So factor that into the price, like we talked about this last time with buyer's premiums. That buyer's premium is a cost of acquisition. So it goes into the cost of the card, but people tend to forget about shipping, right? Someone could walk into your store and buy a base set for $15. Well, good luck. Fine. Go and buy that set on eBay for 10, but you still got to get it to you. So that's why when people talked about the LCSs and them going away, it's like, no, they do a valuable service. And I think that to be able to go into a store, just pull something off a shelf is great because you have it. Like when I buy a card on eBay, God knows when it's coming. Like
it's instant gratification for your purchase.
Exactly.
Right, so I don't have to wait. It's like that, and people don't equate shipping costs sometimes. Like, well, I got this because I bought so much, I got free shipping. Well, you had to buy a lot to get that free shipping. Like, when you're buying a base set, it's going to cost you $6-7 just to ship it.
Right. Next one is one we've been tracking since day one, since like the beginning of 2021. We've been looking at the 1985 Topps Hulk Hogan ungraded, and it's been consistently a $35 to $40 card. It slipped a little bit this month. At the low end, it sold for 20 or 19. At the high end, it sold for 50. It averaged out at about 31.89. But I think that $35 or so is about right. And again, remember, this is the yellow one. Sometimes I'll pick up a blue one if it's if the price is in line, and it's just for raw. But that's held pretty consistently over all this time.
Yep. Back up to the list earlier, we skipped over the Panini Prism box.
Oh yeah, Panini Prism. You see, I'm trying to put that out of my head. We started looking at the hobby boxes. We've mentioned 1,000 times over how they slipped and slipped and slipped and slipped to under $200. They're now sitting at 190.08. We've had the conversations. Is that a good buy? Has all this stuff been picked over? Is having a black 1-of-1 tracker a bad thing because people know what they're not going to get? Et cetera, et cetera. But there are people that think that there's still stuff in these boxes. There's still white prisms. There's still loads of stuff.
Or they're buying the box as a whole, thinking that's going to be some kind of value because there's going to be less and less actual sealed wax in the future, kind of thing. So
my problem with that is with Panini cranking the shit out of everything, like every month putting out a major, top tier. When you have a run like Select with 400 and that the size and the scope of Select, going to the size and scope of Panini, going to the size and scope of Chronicles now, these aren't lean times in wrestling card production.
No,
I've made a point of counting how many cards, individual cards, not counting the parallels, that Panini has cranked out, and they've cranked out more cards than the entire Fleer era. They've cranked out more cards than the entire WCW era. They've cranked out more cards than vintage from 1900 to 1980. I did a count, and I'm at about 1,400 pieces. These are individual cards. No dupe. That's a lot. And figure that the Impeccables are costing me minimum $5 a piece, right? The mezzanines were probably in there too. Like we're talking a book at the end of the year that costs quite a bit of bread. And that's what the hobby has become if you're a collector. Which is why when Ryan made the comment, well, they put this stuff out not really expecting anyone to collect it all. I'm like, well, that's kind of how I came into it. That's how I got sucked in. The whole thing is that I need that last one. If I'm short one, then what's the point of all the rest of them? But that mentality. Down to 190.08. You said it was going to go under $200. That wasn't terribly prescient. Is it going to go down to 150, 100? Who knows? But your suggestion that it's going to be sold as a box versus what the contents are makes a lot of sense to me, because a lot of the stuff is.
I think though it's going to, if you could buy it cheap enough and you get it under that 190 to it's suggested retail price of 150. If you can get it in that price point era, I think people are going to start buying that box just to sit on it for 10, 15, 20
and
years.
People are hoping they're going to get a gold, hopefully, they're hoping they're going to get
I don't think they're going to crack it at all. I think they're going to buy it and sit on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing in my mind that makes it worth some. If I get a gold of 10, then you're maybe going to cover the cost of your box. But that's it, and don't forget, like, they put out a lot of shit. So there's, before you know it, there's going to be a 2022 Prism, right? Now all of a sudden there's a new black gold and there's a new gold Andre, et cetera, et cetera. So open your umbrellas, guys. It's going to be raining Panini for the foreseeable future,
Yeah.
and it might not even stop when Fanatics takes over, people like to make money. And if this stuff is making money for somebody, it's going to get cranked out. We could be here crying, oh, we like it, we don't like it, commenting on it, making these 15.
But the market will always dictate. It's just
over and over about what Panini is.
It's no different than when I do my business of booking talent for shows and you hear people cry, they shouldn't be charging that kind of money to get their autograph. They shouldn't be charging that kind of, well, you know what? Maybe you're right, but you know what? The fan base is saying otherwise. You're of the minority.
I saw your Kurt Angle line. I walked into the place and all of a sudden I came around the corner and there was a fucking line to the end to see Kurt. And I looked at you and you were smiling and I'm like, yeah, I understand now why you do this, why he does it. Why he gets up at 7 a.m. and has to take a car for 5 hours to do that. It's there's a market for it there. And when you're deciding on the spot, well, okay, I'll do 3 for 150. I'm like, this is just for fucking signature, piece of cake over, but people want that experience. People want to say, I saw Kurt Angle and he signed my shit. And, that's why this Fitterman thing, a lot of people don't like it. I'm not paying $500 for an Undertaker auto. Well, sure you are, if you want one,
But it sells out every time. So the market says, yes, I am.
It does. So we talked about Hulk. We talked about Panini, the 1991 Impel base set, which is kind of our joke set. It's one for years and years and years. They've been cranking these things out. We make the joke that you crank them out in your back room there. $20.68. But look, there's one guy who paid $55, and that happens every once in a while. Someone doesn't know any better. They want it. They buy it. They pay $55 that someone paid $10.79 for 3 days later. And we've talked about that.
It's weird how it happens like that. It's always about who's shopping at what time. I gave you a quick example. Years ago at Comic-Con San Diego, I bought a complete set of Topps set for the movie Aliens. And it didn't have the stickers in it, which I thought that's kind of what the chase was back in the day, the stickers. And I got it because I was going to give it to my friend who was a big Aliens fan as a gift. When I realized I didn't have stickers in it, because I didn't think about it, and I was like, okay, well, I paid $15 for this set. I said I put up on eBay, and I was very, very explicit that it did not contain the stickers.
Right.
I sold it for $66.
Yeah.
I was just hoping to get my money back on it.
Yeah.
And I made money on it. So it's all about. And I saw other sets selling for $7, $8, $10, whatever. So it's all about who's looking at when and how to navigate themselves through the online world, I guess.
Well, I just bought a Roman Reigns stainless. I lost out on 3 in a row that landed at around $14, and I got one yesterday for $6.
See?
It's just how it goes, that one puts one out, it goes, and I'm just the next guy in line, and now it's my turn, and I get it for a little bit less, and that's how I always accumulated my cards, is I've always tried to buy the cheapest ones and work my way up, and then that's why I don't have a lot of high end stuff, because I was always trying to get the quality over quantity. But it's getting harder and harder to do, when you're buying $5 cards like the Impeccables. There used to be a time where you can buy trading cards for dimes and pennies and nickels. Now we're in a world where you're lucky to get a $1 a card. Some of these things, like we say, these new ones are less, but still, it's become a very expensive hobby. And last thing we got is the Royal Rumble base set, the big one from 2002 Fleer, and we had 2 sales this month.
What a fall from grace this set is too.
Yeah, this was like $200 about a year ago, right?
Yep. And
now it's down to 91.
Yep.
So,
I mean, we went through a whole, hell, not even a year ago. We're going all the way back to in March. So we had a $258.33 average. Then we had nothing. We had no sales for multiple months in a row of no sales, other than
back into half the price.
Then other than little mini master sets, which can contain all like the special chase and stuff like that in there. But then it's coming back as a base set. People are letting it go, and it's like, less than half the price. It's like 70% from off.
Yeah. So there you go.
Crazy.
Yeah. So let's see what 2023 brings. I mean, obviously December is a bit of a tricky month because it's Christmas and people don't buy as much wrestling cards because they're buying Christmas presents for families and stuff. And we know January is a little quieter, but then February, March, April, things start to ramp up. So we'll be watching these Panini releases. We'll be keeping our eye on the Upper Deck stuff and letting you guys know. So the last thing I want to do is just one thing that I forgot to do during our talk with Chuck was the 2022 in Memoriam. People that we lost in 2022. Obviously, the big one, and this was, I know it affected you, was Scott Hall, because he was a friend of Kevin's, and you're close to Kevin. And the other big name that we lost was Antonio Inoki. And he was a giant, literally, of the wrestling business. And it's funny because last year I did a top 10 of all time wrestlers, the standard guys that you have in the list. And a bunch of people sent me an email going, of North America. And it was very clear that, if you're going to do any sort of top 10 list, you better have Antonio Inoki in that list, or it ain't a real list.
That's right.
And that was one, I didn't have Savage or Sting in there either, but I got more grief about Antonio Inoki not being in the list than anybody else. So rest in peace to those guys. We also lost referees Tim White and Dave Hebner. And one other name, which is actually, I don't know if we're doing this for video, but I don't know if people are going to see this or not, but I'll show you a card of someone who passed away. You guys ever seen this set before? Ever seen these guys?
I never. Wrestling All Stars. Never.
Yeah, Wrestling All Stars.
I've heard about them.
Yeah, you heard about them, but you know what? Let me find the card here, because this is the only reason I read this name, and I thought, not Joyce Grable, but the one and only Candy Divine. Can you see her there?
Early in the year, I believe, too, right?
Yeah, she passed away. Candy Divine. And I know nothing other about Candy Divine other than she's on the same page as the Grand Wizard, Matt Bourne, and Lou Albano. That's about it. So rest in peace there. And also Sarah Logan, who was one of the young upstarts on that Tough Enough show. She passed away very young, I think at 30 or 31 years old. But it's always, there was a spell there, I guess, back in 10, 15 years ago where we were losing wrestlers like every month. But it's, still, it was sad to see Scott Hall and Antonio Inoki passed, and may they rest in peace.
Well, I also want to mention my friend Bob Muldren, who he passed away this year. He is a longtime photographer who's covered every major wrestling event in the last 30, 40 years. Ran a section of the Wrestling Fig website that let people know what talent was signing where, kind of thing. And I was fortunate enough to know Bob for many, many years. Room with him once down in San Diego for a big event down there, and one of the nicest guys ever. And just sad to see him go. So he was. I was actually what people don't really know about is that I was in talks with him to possibly put out a card set based on all his years of photography, that he had from different sets. Now that of course will never happen, but I'll miss Bob. Bob was a good guy.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss there.
One thing I wanted to mention as well too that we kind of forgot for people who've passed in 2022, and even very, very recently here, the great Don West.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, which is funny because some things that about my memories of him going back when RVD was wrestling for the company. I remember driving with Rob up and down the California coast when TNA made an appearance out there for different places. And I remember the matches because there's the same set card every night. So the main event was Kurt Angle versus Bobby Roode. And I remember even before then, I remember talking about it with Tracy Brooks at the time. She was there because her husband Frankie was wrestling for the company. And I remember saying, God, I saw TNA in their first time they came through the Southern California area and Anaheim, stuff like that. I said, I don't remember much about who was wrestling who. All I remember is before the matches, the intermission, and after the matches, Don West in that ring going, you got to go. We got a great deal going over here. You got to go. And just pumping and pushing those DVDs, those meet and greets with the people backstage, and the T-shirts. I mean, he was just a salesman, just full of life in that, man. It was just, I don't remember much about the matches, but I remember everything about Don West.
Nice.
And he was also the guy. He was the guy here in the States too, like, back in the 90s, man. He was a guy that had a whole shopping channel that was devoted. He sold baseball cards on TV.
Oh, did he really?
Yes. Huh. So that he was a guy going, this is a great deal, factory set. Oh, 500 cards. I mean, that was the guy who was selling you wrestling cards.
I just knew about him from the TNA sets because he was in a bunch of them and a couple of autographs and such like that.
Yeah. So another one gone. It's like that. So what are we going to do here to wrap our show up today? What's left?
Yeah, that's it was going to be a quick one this month because December's always a little quieter, and we got a special one coming up next month. But I won't let the cat out of the bag. You'll have to wait and see what happens when the next time the two of us get together.
No, I think we can let the cat out of a little bit.
Yeah, do you want to?
We can tease a little bit. Let's just say that our next episode, we will be live and in person together.
Let's just say that then.
Let's just say that. That's it. That's all I was going to say about that. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it would be a fun time.
You know, I think also going forward, maybe in 2023, if we go back to the market, do we want to change up the market or continue to keep our same list of things up there, or add?
Well, we'll talk about that next month when we get together. I'll bring the sheets and maybe we'll decide to pivot it a little bit, you know.
I don't know if we want to drop anything, because I'm kind of interested in still keeping what we have, because we spent so much time talking about these things, see where they kind of go, but maybe maybe add one or two more things that we're going to say, you know what, for 2023 going forward, we're going to add this.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of figure out what we're doing here. So it's interesting. So I hope that people who are watching or listening, because I'm not quite sure, you know, completely honest, if you guys listen to this, we're going to be doing audio only or doing video. I'll repurpose these as videos down the road. I'm not sure how we're going to do it going forward. It's just a lot of stuff for me to do. The one thing that I try to make the most time for doing the you know, WTCtv is monthly recaps. That is a first and primary thing for me every month. Everything else becomes secondary for me, because timing is not, it's hard for me. All of my equipment is now sitting here at the store. I used to do all these from my house. It was easy for me to run off into the office and do it right there. I don't have anything like that at home now. So going forward, I'm going to have to either invest in a new laptop that I can do this at home, because I'd rather just keep this stuff at the house because it's easier and more convenient for me.
Well, you don't have to go looking over to the store every time, right?
Now I got to travel. Like, you know, today, as we're recording, I'm not open today, but I have to come into the store today just to come in and do this.
Right.
And it's just kind of, I'm going to say an inconvenience, but it's just something I have to go out of the way to get this done. But if I'm going to go out of the way for something, it's the monthly recaps for sure. Awesome. Everything else is secondary.
Well, we have fun doing them, so we hope you enjoy them.
I hope people do enjoy these. I love to see some more comments on what you think about these episodes. People want to have some discussions. Is there anything that we forgot, that we overlooked, especially when it comes to our top tens or the market pricing kind of thing? I think those are pretty accurate. But you know, as far as like any of our conversations that we have, did we miss somebody that we passed away for this episode? Did we you know, miss a release that we should have discussed a little bit more? It's like them. If there's something, a segment going forward that you guys want us to cover going forward for a monthly recap, love to hear it. Love to know, like, hey, why don't you guys cover more about this? You know, maybe we can do that. But as always, we want people to just take away something hopefully helpful to either better your collection, or if you're new to the hobby, help you get into the hobby. Always reach out to Paul. Paul's an excellent resource. Reach out to myself, reach out to Chuckster. You know, there's a lot of resources out there for you guys to reach out to say, hey, can you help me? I'm looking for this, or I don't know much about that. There's some guys that can definitely help you out with that. Collectively, we work much better as a team than any of us ever work out individually. So that's kind of, we play off each other, and it's like, I don't know this. Paul knows this. Paul doesn't know this. Anthony knows this. Anthony doesn't know this. Chuckster knows this. So somebody's there to help. So that's what all we want to do, is just kind of help grow the hobby.
We're here to help, guys, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody. And you know, next month will be special because we're gonna have something good. So
all right.
We'll see you guys later. Thanks.